Hi, this is Viktor Devonne, and you are listening to Season 3 of We Burlesque the Podcast. Thank you so much for your support over the last year and a half. This is pretty exciting. We've done more than 60 regular episodes with a couple of bonuses along the way, and I have a bunch of episodes in the queue that I can't wait for you all to listen to. And I still have more interviews and conversations planned, so it's going to be a great season. I already know it. This is your reminder, however, that I do all of this by myself, and frankly, a little help and support goes a long way. As artists, we throw in a tip bucket, and any money that goes in helps keep the dream alive. So if you want to help out, you can go to patreon.com/weburlesque, and you can pledge as a regular monthly pledger, or you can throw me a couple bucks on Cash App, or you can throw me a couple bucks on Venmo. It's Victor Viktor Devonne Devonne, and that's just the way it is. So thank you so much, and again, enjoy the rest of the season. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters, Michelle Donato, Stormageddon, Rob Starabin, and Kelly Blue. If anybody else would like to join that list, I will thank you in the next episode. Thank you so much. Shall we?
Yeah.
All right. This is We Burlesque the Podcast. I am your host, Viktor Devonne, and today I am talking to a queen in Cleveland, Ms. Bella Sin. How you doing, Bella?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Are you finally able to breathe? Because you just had a whirlwind. We finished up the Ohio Festival only a couple weeks ago, and I'm so glad that it was such a success. But how are your feet?
I'm still running. I was not very wise to myself, and I didn't give myself a break this year because it's up and I was just like, oh, I could do without a break. And I was like, just kidding, I can, Uncle. So I am yet to sit down. Although I did schedule a week of rest where I'm just, doing certain things with certain people that I enjoy, and then just vegging out in the couch like God intended to.
Valid. The festival happens every year. How many years has it been so far?
We just celebrated our 9th year.
So next year is 10 years of the Ohio Burlesque Festival. How much time between are you already overlapping? Have you already begun the process for that? I know you have the dates down, but do you give yourself a full calendar year, or is it more like a 14-month year?
We give ourselves a 14-month year. So we start planning for the way it could have just started is that we just kind of went with it. We didn't even know what we were doing, and we just went, let's do it. We learned a lot on the way. But it was just kind of we had our vision boards and we had our notes, and we revisit notes from years prior to go ahead and inspire us to do better for years forward and booking and all that stuff. And since we book POC first, it's a little bit like we're moving towards in our POC circles first, and then you'll see us move in the grand scheme of things everywhere else. But it's just essentially we're very much 2-year in advance planners. Like our festival, I think, is now already scheduled till 2025.
Oh my goodness!
So, I know.
Very nice. I mean, it must be such a lovely experience, though, because having a community that is there for the standing room only nights is sending in their applications. You had people from all over the country and beyond. So, what do you feel that if you were to tell 9 years ago, Bella Sin, to be where you are now, what would you have said to say, hey, calm down, I know you have a lot going on, but in 9 years, you're going to learn this, this, and this?
Laughs in Spanish. I honestly have not at all expected anything of what happened. I don't think baby me would have even believed where we are, because to somebody like me, this was not possible, this was not attainable, and I constantly heard, this is not attainable, this is not ever going to happen, you're chasing dreams, empty, interpretations. You're just, you're silly. There was so many people that told me this was not going to work and that I shouldn't go for it, that you would have been like, well, that's dumb. But I think it was like, I'm such a stubborn person. I was like, I'm going to make it work. But I would have laughed in my face. I would have been like, you're funny. You're hilarious.
Well, where did the motivation to do it come from? If you didn't necessarily feel that you would have had the momentum to do it, or you wouldn't have listened to any, even yourself, how did you say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, and let it go?
So before I moved to the United States, my mom said that she sat me down and had a serious talk with me prior to, being aware that I was living here. And she was very, very verbal. I was like, you have one chance, and that chance alone is what you got. So you have to give it everything you got. You don't get a second one, and you have to just, when you fall down, you stand up. And even if you're jumping in the dark, you have to keep going. So that's kind of how my whole life has been, because there is nothing normal about my existence in burlesque. Everything has been a cause of extraordinary. It's been like an extraordinary amount of events that don't make sense to me. Okay. But it's also been a lot of hard work and dedication to a place that I was told I didn't belong, from left, right, center, all over the place, to being here. It's just like it. I think it was my mom that was keeping me afloat whenever I had thoughts or mistakes or anything. It was my mom that kept me going and kept me level-headed whenever I needed help. So it was really her belief in me that just propelled everything that I've done, that I did, that I do. So it was, my mom has always been the, go get it done, go make me proud. And I was like, okay, let's go. Why not?
Now, according to what I think I've spoken to you about it before, you're from, is it Juarez, Mexico?
Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico, yes.
Yes, which I know only through, I know there was like a not a mythology, but there's like a legendary tragedy about, there are a lot of people who go missing, and it's sort of a
it's not the best city, but it's still it's a lot of the truth in that ghost story. Actually, that's one reason that we moved here, because of the amount of trafficking, murders, and drugs that was there. My everyday was gunshots, and we woke up to 200 dead gunshots between drug lords and their people, and it was a very real situation in my life. There's a saying that we always said, if you're from Juarez, you know how to survive. It's because we got a lot of street smarts. And it was, I was fresh out of high school when my mom was looking into moving to the U.S., and we were looking in any way, shape, or form that we could do it. And the next day that she said we were moving to the U.S., they found, I think it was 14 bodies that were harvested and near my sister's school, and there was this whole thing, and then there was a shootout later that night, and I think it was my mom already knew what was happening, that she wanted to try everything she could to give us a better life. And I think it was that catalyst, that she didn't want her kids to turn out to be, either victims or, assailants, essentially. And we
lower your risk of that, yeah. So when did you make your way to the States, as it were?
So the first time we went to the States was in 1999, then we came back. And then I came back around in 1999, early 2000, to permanently migrate here. And we went straight to Denver, Colorado, versus the last time we went to Dallas and stuff like that, Dallas, El Paso. But when I came here actually alone, my sister ended up deciding to stay back with my birth father in Mexico. So we were separated at that point, and that was I would not see her for 2 years before I saw her again after we migrated over. Oh. Yeah.
Just so I'm sure we have cultural touchstone right now where we're talking about more and more about people coming from Mexico into the United States. And unfortunately, it's so often talked about with such a negative slant because we live in a fascist administration. And
Yep.
The tragedy of that and the supposed American dream and bringing people in and escaping hardship and escaping obstacles and making a better life for yourself. It's supposed to be like this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And the people who are fucking it up are actually, Americans. How do you feel the current climate? I know this is a big question. How do you feel the current climate versus when you first traveled into the United States?
So when we first traveled in the United States, it was still the same. It's weird to say, but it was the same, but it wasn't. It was always there. It was the background that you were not liked because who you were, and that was always spoken to me in a different manner because we did a couple of things to survive, and one of them was like we changed the tone of our conversations whenever we're in public, so we spoke kind of in code to keep our safety. And then on top of that, we knew where to speak in public and where we shouldn't. It was kind of, in Texas, it was not the greatest place. In small towns in Texas, wasn't the greatest place to speak Spanish. But then, like, when you got more to city areas, you're like, okay, cool, you're among just your own. You start speaking Spanish. But like, I specifically remember somebody saying, it's like, well, you're light enough that you can pass if you behave. And you don't learn your language, you'll become American, and you'll be one of the good ones. And since then, that always has felt sick to me. So, like, there was all this, come to the United States, we love you as you are, blah, 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 blah. Then you get here, and you're like, to be a good American, you cannot be anything else but an American. And that was, incredibly, the message that's sent into the communities has always been of, you're not going to be ever enough to be an American, regardless of how much you become a citizen, how you came here or other. They just, whiteness always prevails. And then now, which I think my whole life prepared me for what's going on now, and I'm really happy that my family always was really honest with me about what happens when you're an immigrant in this country. Now, I know that a lot of people were like, oh, this existed then, this existed then. I was like, no, none of this existed before, ICE existed. It didn't exist till, A, B, and C happened. This was not a real thing. And then also detention centers, yes, existed under Obama, but there were creations from, past presidents that wanted to go ahead and put a stop to migration. And also some of those kids traveling, their parents would send them with a family member by themselves to pick them up and the final destination to get grabbed, and they knew what it was, but like the violence towards migrants was there. And when 9/11 happened, it shifted. It's always been a fear of a certain migration, like a migrant community. It used to be Muslims. It used to be, like Middle Eastern with the whole Osama bin Laden situation, and then it turned to Mexicans because of allegedly the high volume of crossings that we did. And when I always tell people, I was just like, if you want to be misguided about who migrants are, you can, but they are the ones that are feeding your families, taking care of your kids, putting food on the table, cleaning your bathrooms. We're all around you. You just need to look, and you'll find all of us there. But now there's an amount of violence that it's very, told me that, like, maybe we're overreacting, maybe this, maybe that, and I'm like, no, but I'm not in support of the current administration. Actually, in almost every show I say fuck Donald Trump, which I will always and forever say I don't care, because it's how many, like, more of my people and its children and its background do we have to suffer to be treated as equal? And in history, people don't remember that the only other time that was this aggressive was during the Repatriation Act. One of the presidents that literally anybody that had Mexican heritage was repatriated to Mexico, regardless if you were born here or not. So there was American citizens that ended up in Mexico, and people don't remember this stuff because, like, who's going to go into history to see if it repeats itself besides historians? So it was
Right, because we don't want that. We don't want that responsibility to see that. We want to just say, because again, I think a lot of white people, the response instantly is, "Why can't you get over it?" or "That was so long ago." So if we don't want others to think about their past, why would we possibly want to examine our own fucked upness? I mean, that would just be too much for us to deal with, and we're at such a point where we're so, I guess, just angry at everybody else because we don't want to deal with our own shit, and it's the most frustrating thing.
It's weird when you think about what America was then and what America is now, and what America is going towards, because it was always a big deal for us to go ahead and, become an American and be an American. But now it's just like everybody has their own definition of an American is. And it was like we learn American history in Mexican schools in a different manner than we learn in U.S. schools. And when I came to the U.S. and I learned through American schools what America is, it was like the white savior syndrome everywhere.
Absolutely.
And when I would ask questions, it was just like, you're not allowed to question this. You're questioning authority. I was like, why is it bad to question authority? Isn't that what you just taught us in the class before, question authority? So it was like when somebody of color spoke up, immediately was that immediate pushback. And I was always very like, I don't know, thrown out by it. I'm like, ooh, that sounds like gross. And I was like, I was just a teenager. I thought I was just like, doing something wrong or somehow because my other classmates were being yelled at in that manner. But, that's another reason I was a really lonely kid in high school, because I didn't fit in with the white kids. I didn't fit in with the Mexican kids. And I just kind of hung out with the goth and the LGBT circles. And that's where I got my word on. But, no, it's just like that. The country that I'm in has been the same in different levels of aggression. But at least with Obama, there was an opportunity to sort through our people and still have a humanity versus what we have now, where we're compared to animals, which is another ridiculous thing.
So you went to so you went to high school in Texas, or you went to high school in Colorado?
I went to high school in Colorado. I went to an inner city school in Denver, and then I was able to improve my English, and I was moved to an all-white school in the suburbs.
Okay. When did you find your way to Cleveland?
Oh God, I met somebody in the internet.
We've all been there. Tale of old time. We've all been there.
Tale of old time at this point. My sis was new, Dark Forum, and all this stuff was happening, and I met my daughter's father there, and it's just kind of like I just graduated high school, and I figured out what I'm gonna do. At that point I was working 2 jobs and helping my mom out. She just gotten divorced and separated from her piece of ex, and all this other stuff that we're supposed to do as kids, and I actually dropped out from college because I didn't know I could do both. At that point, it was unbeknownst to us that we could do both. But I met my daughter's father, and immediately came in a Greyhound cross country to meet him, and then I found out I was pregnant not long after, and I was just like, well, damn. And then I moved in August of, I think it was 2003, late 2003 that I moved to
Cleveland, to Ohio.
Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the political climate in Cleveland? Is there a racist current, or is there a feeling of this? We're not quite coast. I mean, Ohio isn't really. It's sort of stuck in the middle there, and it's what's it like? Oh, say it again. How so?
So Ohio's fucking it up right now. So most of the rural areas are Trump country, and then most of the cities like Columbus, Cleveland, and other areas are blue cities. So they're very democratic, and it's a touch and go in certain areas of Cleveland, like where I live and the area I live. It's not the safest, but also at the same time, is anywhere safe anymore when it comes to what is happening nowadays with the determinant of what's this fascist BS situation. I think that somebody said it in words that I can explain everything. It's like white people don't want to become a minority because they know how to treat minorities, so they're afraid to do that. But I think Ohio in general right now, they're trying to say they're supporting rolling back LGBTQ rights, and I'm like, oh no. And then the other one that they're trying to go ahead and push is that they're trying to get the abortion banned here. And this is another thing that we do as activists here is try to go ahead and ensure everybody has access to a safe termination and access to birth control. And then the other one is like there's so many things in Ohio that I think are because of miseducation versus miseducation is the main source of problem, and then we have other like racism because we have certain communities here that are not very aware of the outside world and what it has to offer. So in part Ohio, there's a lot of people in Ohio that are fighting to keep Ohio blue and keep it good and keep it what it is. But then there's other people that want to mess it up. And I've seen the good that there is in Ohio. I've seen the people that, you've been here. You've seen a lot of, the people that treat you here. So it's definitely, there's good factors to it. And the sexual I perform in California, that's I was like, that's why I left that podunk town. I was like, listen, some of us don't want to give up on certain places. So we continue to fight for the people that cannot fight here.
Yeah, it's such a just defeatist attitude. Like fight for the place you got, and don't let it be overtaken by this terrible ideology. Like, come on.
You have to stand and you have to show them up in order to, to shut them up, because as soon as we need to start putting down this thought that certain people don't belong here, because first of all, I belong here as much as anybody else. I've made my own job, I made my own company, made my own space, and I brought my own table. But at the same time, it was like, there is nobody that's going to move me out of a space because they want to make me feel less. I was like, no, ma'am. Nobody's going to run me out of town. And if anything, I've done quite contrary to that. But I think it's just if you give up so easily and just think that moving is a solution, I was like, no, that's not a solution. That's why I'm like, my husband was like, hey, maybe we should move. I was like, no, let's wait it out. I'm not going to leave the people that I love here just to fend for themselves and feel, like nothing. And that's, I think, one of the core reasons why I became an advocate when I was young. It was very important. My family was already into advocacy, so that's why I picked up advocacy in Mexico. And then I just kind of found my footing in advocacy in the United States, and it started with the LGBTQ community. And then I left the advocacy I was doing there to an extent and started supporting more of my people and women of color, because I saw a need there to go ahead and uplift communities and help. As a white passing POC, I was going to be able to navigate certain areas versus others. So I just kind of said, I was like, fuck it, let's go over here. So let's go where I'm needed.
So what are some of the programs that you work with, and are they local? Are they national? What are they?
So I work as a translator for 2 to 3 national organizations that I can't say because I work with them with my Muggle job.
That's fine.
But I speak 2 indigenous languages in Mexico, Nahuatl and Tarahumara, which is Naramari, and then I also speak Spanish and English. I also speak Italian, and sort of at this point, Portuguese is escaping me because I don't have anybody to talk to, but I speak Portuguese and well. And then I go back and forth with translating for people who do not have money to get a translator that are in detainment. I also focus with helping trans Latinas and trans Latinos in non-binary individuals to go ahead and get lawyers to get out of detainment and to try to go ahead and get, medicines and stuff that they need. I also help different organizations when it comes to immigration first responding when migrant community gets hit by ICE, where first, touch on the floor to go ahead and help them gain food and supplies. There's actually a really awesome organization called Los Niños de Corsos here, along with Interreligious Task Force of Central America. They have been helping people on the border, off the wall, and Los Niños de Corsos are actually run by kids that were affected by what happened. So Natalia is one of the kids that is, running around. They're going to Mississippi. They're doing all this other stuff for donations, and it's super cool what they do. There's a lot of organizations that I work with to just be able to offer rights or release migrants to their homes, and that's like, those are easy parts. And when I did some of them are rogue volunteering. That's what we started calling it, because not everybody in a 501c3 nonprofit is a good person. So, and not all 501c3 nonprofits are good people. So we started kind of just like going by ourselves, joining small groups that were fighting independently, because we're all doing the same fight, but just other people do not have that comfort. And there's some organizations that I just don't mess with. So it's just, what, I can do what you're doing, but better in my own right. So last year we helped the immigrant community in Northeast Ohio that was hit by ICE. It was like close to 127 families, 130 that got hit, and we were providing food to about 60 of those families once a week for 6 months, including a toy drive. There was like a bunch of posts that I did on Facebook of it for asking for food. We teamed up with a couple of local stores and stuff, and some Mexican stores to help us gate stuff. And one thing that I found out of all that is just you don't need to be working under a nonprofit to do something. You can actually take it upon your hands and just organize logistically what you're going to do. And there's a bunch of people that are going to come and help you. Receipts matter, and all the receipts. And then on top of that, I also took into account that the fight of one can be of many, and just standing up and doing something can make a change for somebody. But you'll start seeing what some people do for glory, some people do for attention. And I just, I was like, there's kids there. I saw my mom in that. I saw my sister in that. So, there was LGBTQ folks affected. There was deaths. There was so much that happened in that immigrant community that I couldn't turn a blind eye anymore. And I actually planned the festival at the same time, and I was sick while I was doing all that, but I still did it. And so this year feels like I'm not doing anything, but I am. But it's just like I kind of routed myself to where I can be beneficial for those that need an English translation person, or a ride, or people. Like, we're kind of moving an underground road around the United States to protect people. And that's even teaching people how to go ahead and figure out who's, what's an ICE check and what's Homeland Security, what's the cops, what can they do, what can they not, so, but at the same time,
the status quo is failing people.
Yeah.
So it becomes a grassroots effort to protect people.
Yeah. Essentially, but the other thing that it's quite surprising to me is that it only takes not even half, it's less than half of the people in this country to overthrow the government. And I'm sitting over here going like, so, hey, everybody, so, like, stop talking about Area 51. Do y'all want to go to somewhere else to do this? So it's just like frustration amounts of having to do it the right way, and also not having the availability to screen about other people, because I'm so scared of this upcoming election. I'm actually hoping that my citizenship is done by then so I can vote by next November. So, because that will give me great joy. But I'm still going to be working with, there was actually voting registration. I don't know if you saw it at the festival. There was been the last couple of years voting registration. We definitely are including things about advocate work and what you can do, and other people to go and inspire to go do work in their community through what our medium is. And it doesn't feel preachy. That's what I've been told. But apparently we did, Boobs Bradley did make a Trump supporter exit the building and go cry in his car for the remainder of the show because his wife wouldn't leave. So I was like, score! I was so happy. But I don't know. It's just like all the rest roots organizations that I work with, not just for migrant rights, like AIDS Task Force of Greater Cleveland. They're a charity of the year, along with LNEC, the Native American, the Lake Erie Native American Council, the LGBT Center. Like, if all this community comes to my shows, they all come to spend their hard-earned cash in my shows. I'm going to try to make sure that I do everything that I can for them to live safely and comfortably and happily. And we did, I was a logistics director for Cleveland Pride Parade and Festival for 9 years. So that's where I learned a lot of logistics stuff that I did and pride planning, and now I just kind of sort of attend prides, and sometimes I don't even go. I stay home because the younger generation needs to I'm going to get wrapped into working. They're like, Bella, something's not working. I was like, okay, I'll be right back. So I went to enjoy myself once at this like place, and they're like, Bella, the drag queens are not listening. I was like, okay, I'll be right back. And I ended up running the whole backstage production show, and they like put a couple of bucks in my pocket, but it's just like, I'm like, I just want a nap, y'all. Yeah, I'm never off. At this point, I'm just like, I need a nap. Don't talk to me for a week. I'm fine. And I'm still working.
When did you start working in your field of burlesque?
2003.
So is that right when you entered Cleveland, or right on the cusp?
It was before I entered Cleveland, actually. So I found this book in my public library at school when I was skipping class. Because that's what you do when you skip class, you go to the library. And me not understanding what all of this was just like, I went through the theater books. I was just looking for something to read, and it was an inner city school, so I didn't have any up-to-date books, you know. So I found this pictorial burlesque, and I was 16, I think. So shortly after, I lied about my age and took a burlesque class, and then they viewed in this weird goth bar. It was a damn mess. I was doing Jefferson Airplane's White Rabbit, and I was like, I cut my taffeta corset with like some weird knife that was on stage for no reason. It was a mess. I put my pasties on with nail glue. If that gives you any idea, I know. Don't ever do that, but in a pinch it works.
A lot in a pinch works that we should never do.
Right? But you want to be a glamorous performer. Anyway, so I started in early 2003, and then I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and then kind of this whole thing of the boyfriend take place, and then the pregnancy thing. So when I moved to Ohio, I kind of just was like, okay, I'm going to really do this. I have a kid. I have to get serious about this. So thankfully I was in a place and with people that understood my dream and my drive and stuff, and they supported me a lot. So I was able to turn around and had my daughter in December of 2003, and then went straight into burlesque in 2004, in March of 2004, as a troupe here versus individually. So it was super intense because nobody knew what it was. Nobody. And then almost like magic, 3 months later, there was other troops in it. And I was just like, oh, and that was the real deal right there. We were all fighting, fist fighting, calling each other names. That was for real. We didn't have the internet. We did, but we did it.
Certainly not
I love that one number.
Certainly not in the same way we do now. Absolutely.
Not at all.
Yeah.
MySpace wasn't even like a thing. Like I remember Tom being my first friend, but after that, it just kind of like for a couple of, like our first lineup never saw the light of day. And when I started La Femme back then, it was now called Cleveland Burlesque LLC. When I started my troupe, I wanted it to be everybody that looked like me or was going to be like me, and had that representation on stage. And we had an Native American woman, and then we have African American plus size woman, and then we had our token white girl and me. And then it was kind of how we started on stage, and we just went for it. And our first show was a mess. I promised my then boyfriend I wasn't going to take off my top, but that went off the window real quick. And it just went from there. And for a while, it was just me for a little while, because of, people started to be like, oh, this takes effort. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And then I started going to New York and Chicago to see shows, At one point in time in my young burlesque life, I also in 2003, I saw Kit in the Veil perform, and that was like a shook moment. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, what is this? Because you never see somebody shake like Kit in the Veil does, first of all. So you're like sitting there going like, it was like my face was just smacked with awesomeness. And then you start realizing that you kind of have to find yourself. New York scene was actually a little more diverse than I expected it to be, because I thought I was going to see a bunch of dancing white girls, and I didn't, actually. I saw a lot of
Depends where you are sometimes. Depends where you go.
Yeah. After getting lost in the damn train 6 times. I was trying to go to Coney Island, never made it. To this day, I still have never made it to
Coney Island is like the Siberia of New York. It takes so long to get there. It is a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's absolutely worth it if anybody ever wants to go. And I totally encourage it. But it is an effort. You have to want it.
Yeah. I just keep going like, I'm going to go this way. The trains there took a long time to master. So then in Chicago, I saw definitely a dancing parade of white girls. But I just kind of kept to myself and was very scared of everybody. Like,
why?
I wasn't, because I had the same mentality that I wasn't shit. I wasn't anybody to anybody, and I was just this Mexican girl coming, this little chubby Mexican girl coming around asking questions, and everybody's like, oh, who are you? And there was like, that this is New Yorker attitude. They're like, who is you? Like, I don't know you. I was it's like, who are you working with? But it was just like that thing that I was like so timid. I wasn't the same outgoing person that I am right now, and then like just, took my classes, went home. That was me and the Great Hum were friends. But it was turning to me just kind of trying to get my city behind me before I went out anywhere again, because it was just, I want them to show that there is something in somebody back here, and that didn't happen till like 2010, I think.
So who were some of the first people to like outstretch a hand and say, you're one of us, or we want to be with you, and you're valid?
Not a damn person.
Even now?
No, not now. It's different.
I think you have earned your throne.
I sit in a throne of light. And of tacos. So I worked a lot in Columbus, and I used to work a lot in Columbus, and that was like, even then I felt like I didn't belong. It wasn't really I never felt like I belonged in the scene till I went to my first BHOF. So I said I was going to go to my first BHOF, and after that I was going to quit. So that was the whole plan, right? Because I just didn't I didn't see anybody like me. Anytime I did Latin music or Mexican music, it was the immediate flat, like punchback. I was like, nobody's gonna like you like that. Nobody's gonna listen to that. Nobody's gonna book that act, you know. And it was the popularity of Dita Von Teese and all these people. And even when 2011 was my first festival acceptance to the New York Burlesque Festival, and that was my first festival. Imagine that being your first festival. Scotty the Blue Bunny is emceeing. You're before Bettina May. You're looking at Angie Fontani and everybody in New York in the Brooklyn Bowl in the back, and your face is hyperventilating. I'm just like, mommy. And it was
but you were welcomed. You were accepted, and you were brought there. And you still felt like you were.
I still didn't feel like I was in shit. I was. Oh God, it was such a horrible number too. I didn't know better at that point. It was horrible. Know better now. But it was just I just didn't feel like I was there as part of the show. You know, I just felt like I was less than, because my costume had that big bag of bling on it. I was actually about to be homeless when I went to New York. And I was actually in a really abusive relationship, so I wasn't even able to enjoy that festival. The year that I went to New York just to watch was completely different, though, because I remember Tansy Tandora was the first one that was just like, hey, me and her were new. We knew we were, knew an extent to me, me knew an extent to whatever, but me knew dipping my finger in other waters. And her new in burlesque, and me and her were like, hey, how are you? It's a Little Stormy. It was another one that was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, hi. And then Monkey was always very welcoming. I was always petrified to say hi to Amber Ray, and she said hi to me by name outside of the venue, and I nearly died inside of me. So I was just like, you Amber Ray just said hi to me, and they're like, come down, Bella. I was like, I know, I'm going to sit now. That was the start of Chiquitita, too, of Glorious Pacey's back in the day. So, Scotty the Blue Bunny made me lick something off his hand. I don't still remember what. I think it was a pasta sauce. I can't remember. But it was this whole thing that's just I think I've always had extreme amount of not feeling like I belong, but I never saw a Latina in my eyes, like a girl doing Latino music. And it wasn't until I went to Beehive that I was petrified, first of all, going down the stairs when I first got to New Orleans. And shout out to Mary Lou for making that trip happen. So I was going down there in New Orleans, and it was a pair of Canadian girls. And they're like, hey! I was like, hello. I'm Bella, I'm Mexican. And they're like, hello. They're like, oh, you come from Mexico? It's sort of from Cleveland, sort of. And then after that, they told me that the legends were in the one room. Now I walked in and I hear Spanish, and of course my ears pick up because I already knew Tony Elling and Lottie the Body and Val Valentine, right? But my ears perked up, and I was just like, her. And it was all the Latin legends. And at that moment, after I talked to them, I actually felt like I had a place. Because I saw people that used to do this. And as a historian myself, I knew they were there, but I thought they were I thought they were an over in legend. They were extinct. They were the diamond dinosaur that you'll never find. But that's a weird analogy. But it was just, I think it was that moment where I saw other people like me, and I met other people like me, that I started feeling like I did belong, because I felt like I was always an addition to. I never felt like I was the person. To me, felt like an addition, and I didn't feel like I had roots in it, even though there were. It didn't ever feel that till I saw something palpable and real, because when I first talked to Gina Bonbon, oh my God, I was like, hello, Gina Bonbon, how are you? And straight up, every single Latin legend I talked to, I just nerd out. I don't care if I meet somebody famous, but you put a legend of burlesque in front of me and I cry. I met Tempest Storm, I cried. I met, the first time I met Tony Elling, I cried. She can tell you. She's like, that was a crying mess on the floor. But it was just it's just from a person of color standpoint, it's, this little Mexican girl wasn't supposed to be there, and always constantly was beat down and thought that you shouldn't be here, you don't belong here. And then, you find yourself there. And everybody's just like, after that, I just kind of gave me like a little, just like, it ruffled my feathers a little bit to just like jump. And that's when I started really going outside of what my life was. And I knew people from all over. I brought people from all over. And I knew I was part of the community, but I never really felt like I belonged in it till that very moment.
So is that why you demand representation the way that you do? As you said, you work with POC first when you're looking at the festival that you produce. Is your needing to belong, does that carry into, you think, your choices as a producer?
Since the first day I produced the show, I know I wanted a diverse show. I know I wanted everybody in it to be included. I know that I wanted everybody to be represented, because I never wanted to be in a place that was not somewhere like me, somebody like me, because I knew that not being in the status quo was freaking sucked, because I wasn't booked for certain things. Like, now they can be like, hey, Bella, can you? I was like, yes, this is the fee. Thank you very much. But like, I don't ever want somebody in the audience saying I don't belong here like I did. Like, that to me hurt so much for so many years. Like, Foxy Tan took me out of some of my hurt, my ancestral hurt, actually. She's like, you need to stop apologizing for being Mexican. You're not doing anything wrong. Be proud of who you are. And she's one of the first people that actually, like, I credit a lot with waking me up the way she did. Was kind of like, hey, shook, out of all these years of people telling me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not enough, and still continuing certain places, I think she's one of the ones that was just like, hey, knock the shit out, do this. And then that's another reason why I think inclusivity and diversity has to be thoughtful. It has to be demanded. It has to be unapologetically put together. And it sucks when I see all white shows. Still, there's all white shows in my city. Yeah. And that's not what I created, because essentially, as one of the first troops here, and we're one of the oldest standing, it's like, why are you going to not include performers of color here? And I get all the excuses and everything. Like, I was like, you know what? If you wanted black folks on your show, you will have black folks in your show. You will have Latin people in your show. You will have everybody in your show. But that's, laziness. And I think I think honestly, it's rooted in racism that they don't want to have representation in their shows. And even and the thing that kills me is we have X amount of POCs in our show, and then there's 12 white girls, but 3 people of color. I'm over here this is
the ratio is still a little weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you see what happened was? Let me explain to you how to do this correctly. But it's even having a conversation now with people, or locally and nationally, people think that it's personal. Or people think that I'm just, being catty. And I'm like, if I'm approaching you, trying to have a conversation about people of color and trying to get you to make spaces for them, it's not because I'm trying to end you or call you out or anything. I'm trying to have a discourse with you about what it is to feel a certain way and how easy it is to book a show like it is. And even when somebody told me this year, I was like, what would you do different with OBF? That it's out of the top of your head, it needs more. I was like, it needs more diversity. That's immediately the first thing that I come out to say.
My name is Matt, aka Stormageddon, and I'm the host of Crash Chords Autographs, which is a bi-weekly podcast in which I interview entertainers all over New York and more, from musicians to magicians to comedians to burlesque performers and anything you can really think of. Anyone who's willing to talk, I've had them on my show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and more. You can also follow us on our website, which is crashchords.com. And remember, music is life, and life is good.
Where we're moving with LBF is really scary. we're going to unknown territory with LBF, and I don't know. It's just like the national evolution of what I think a festival should be. But I'm hoping that it works out. But I'm hoping to offer more inclusivity and more diversity, and to stop having walls for people to come or to apply. Eventually, we're hoping to be a full, paid performance convention. And I say convention with the idea of having a full convention full of classes that are for the people that have been in the industry for years. There's things that we still have to learn. We're all really good students, and I know there's BurlyCon for that, and I'm hoping that we can team up with them, and I'm hoping that, and I know that's a very premature idea that's just literally been birthed.
But again, there's only so much space even BurlyCon has. So there are absolutely valid classes that they acknowledge they don't have room for, or that they don't have time for. So, and we shouldn't look at one venue as the end all. That to me is saying, oh well, we already have that. No, there are some people in your area who can't get to BurlyCon, and also
it's
reinforce.
It's really expensive to go there, and I know they do everything in their power to have diversity, have inclusivity, help people get there. There's all these things that they do, but it's just there's so many other things that we're not for some reason. I've always been part of the drag community, and that specific community, drag kings, drag queens, AFAB, performers, and it feels separated now. And it really bothers me because it's always been part of burlesque. It's never not been part of burlesque. So we want to offer somewhere where we have, the whole community, a little bit of Austin International Drag Festival, a little bit of DragCon, a little bit of BurlyCon, a little bit of Beehuff, a little bit of everything, to the point where you're going to come here and you know that you're going to spend $700. It was damn well worth it. And I'm not saying none of those are worth it. They're definitely worth it in their own spec. But I want to make something. But you should be worth it too.
I get it. Yeah, absolutely.
We should make something so accessible to somebody because it's available, and we should be making all these things attainable because some people just don't even know it exists there.
This is the thing, how many other mediums or how many other art forms or theatrical storylines have multiple outlets? Burlesque doesn't have that many. So I think the only way to improve upon the visibility of burlesque is to have more. The suggestion of, that exists already, yeah, that's great. How about more exists? I don't think as much of an oversaturation as some people claim that burlesque has. It has an oversaturation of performers. It does not have an oversaturation of exposure or awareness, in my view.
No, you are completely right, because I see, first off, people need to geotag the damn invites. People geotag your invites. I see burlesque shows everywhere, but that's because I'm in the community. But it's just the thing when I talk to somebody outside the community.
We are so isolated, yeah.
Yeah,
but we don't invite out, though. I think that one of the major problems of burlesque is how self-involved we are because it's so personal. We don't invite the audience, so all we're going to do is get audiences full of other burlesque performers, and that's all well and good. But
you're just lucky if you have a couple of other burlesque performers in Cleveland in your show, honestly.
Well, But I mean, like,
same,
we have
but...
to, like, I was talking to a fabulous performer in New York, Rara Darling, and they were explaining their mission statement as the making it more accessible to people, because people don't know they need this. It fights misogyny. It fights transphobia. It fights body phobia. It fights colorism. It fights all of these things, and yet we're so concerned with the other performer's shoes. Like, we get so stuck on ourselves that we forget, what, we're also supposed to be, entertainers and inviting people in, and that drives me crazy. Drives me crazy.
I make a point to always tell everybody, I was like, if another performer in my city shows up to my show, that's great, but they're not my target market. My target market is, 300,000 million, whatever, many Clevelanders and Akronites and Cantonites and all the ites that are, like, everybody that has $20 to come to the show, that's my market. Because I'm out there, you'll see, if you pay attention to socials and see how often I'm out there passing out flyers, postering, how often I am, like, trying to talk to people, doing Facebook ads, and I'm one of the few accounts that doesn't get their Facebook ads removed anymore. Because I figured a way around that. So it's just like, and Facebook teaches you how to get around that, ironically. That's a whole nother story. But it's just one of the things is, like, I want my city to see what it has. And I think that's what you saw finally. Like, we were featured on NPR. Never in my wildest dreams do I ever think that we would have had a book about us and my work, or, like, let alone be featured on a show like NPR, which I respect nonstop. That's kind of one of those, like, hello, NPR. And I was so self-conscious because I was like, I don't have an NPR voice. I have a Mexican voice. It's like, hello, I'm loud. But, like, it was just like, people need to realize that if you turn around and stop looking to your peers and start passing out flyers to random strangers, they'll come. And those audiences may or may not change their minds, because what the art that I'm putting out there is at a for-profit business where I have to pay people. I have to also make a profit for myself, and I don't care how many people say the producers shouldn't be paid. No, they should be paid, because that show wouldn't happen without those people. But you have to be, like, hitting the payment every day as hard as you can, sending all the press releases, doing your dual duty to go ahead and do so, because I can't tell you how many times I was turned away in some doors. But I came back to punch out windows, to put down their walls, and just said, I was like, hey, here you go. Now one of those publications is our biggest ally and our biggest advertiser. We have accounts from all over, and, like, we're performing at the Cleveland Opera at Playhouse Square. That's just, 15 years ago, I would have been like, hey, you're funny. But that was because of the best thing you'll know me to do. Even Jet Noir has me in his class. Be more like Bellison. Hello, my name is Bellison. Here's my card. Here's a flyer for my show. Hello, how are you? My name is Bella. Let me add you on Facebook. I have mostly, instead of more burlesque performers in my Facebook, I have more local people from Cleveland, because I also invite them to my shows all the time. But I also don't just depend on Facebook. Like, all these people that come to my shows, and one of my friends actually just came to my show, and she's Latina, and she's like, I never knew that I needed this. I never just knew that I needed to breathe this, because I just saw what I needed to breathe in. And I was like, and that's awesome. And some of those people don't want to become performers. Some of those people are just inspired by walking out of the house with another different type of cut dress than they would wear, a bolder lip, mascara. To some people, mascara is a step forward, but we can't continue to alienate our fans, because if they don't know about your show, they ain't coming. So,
this is true. This is absolutely true.
Yep. I feel things.
I appreciate it. I mean, you are, one of my favorite things, and I talk to people on this podcast frequently about it, is the producers that open stages up for performers are not just necessary, they are, the only reason that these shows happen. So it's incredibly important to not just put on a show, but put on a well thought out and intersectional and, intentional show. It's not just, This is in our backyard, folks. Like, we're inviting people in as the representation that they will walk out thinking that's what burlesque is and ends with. So they may go out and do more, but you have to do, I think, the responsible thing and give them as much of a complete thought as possible. So if they never look elsewhere, at least when they tell somebody else what they saw, that then carries on. And I think that you're doing that.
You have to be able to challenge your public, and you cannot think that your public is dumb or stupid. You have to be able to challenge their idea of life, and art challenges that idea of life, and I feel like our shows challenge that idea of life, because honestly, if it wouldn't challenge it, I wouldn't be here. So it's not, nothing about my journey has been easy, and I can tell you that right now, because it's like I used to not be booked because I had an accent. That's you know, that's even as easy as it got at certain times. I used to not be booked because I had an accent. They're like, well, you
know
have
that thing that you hear when you're performing on stage, that accent?
Yeah, totally. I'm totally a talker. It's like the idea that your public decides to educate themselves when they come to a show. Whenever, and even if you call our phone number, if we don't have a show that weekend, we actually route you to shows that weekend that may be from other competitions that we don't exactly like or whatever, but we're getting you to get hooked on it, because it's like anything that's capitalist in America. You need to go ahead and try all of them, all the chicken sandwiches except for Chick-fil-A, because fuck them. And then you find the best chicken sandwich, and which is, you know, in my reality is a torta, because chicken sandwiches are great, but tortas are even better. Anything with guacamole on it, and it's like, anyway, I know, but like you have to find something that fits and suits you and puts it together, and that you have accessibility of. And once you start going to all these different shows and follow all these different performers, and you know, like get your life on with them and stuff like that, it's going to be one of those situations where you're going to be like, okay, it's going to be like the aha moment. And once that happens, everybody's going to start finding you more. They're going to become friends. They're going to bring their friends. They're going to go ahead and tell people, and they're going to come by this. Like, we have a lot of our shows, a lot of single people come to it. I need to stop using that word, because I'm still trying to correct my vocabulary a lot from gender words as a non-binary person, and I didn't realize it was going to be that hard, honestly. But like, we have a lot of single individuals that come to our shows, and those single individuals are always enjoying their time because they don't get harassed, they don't get bothered, they enjoy the show, they talk to other like-minded individuals. We did have a couple that met at the festival the second year. They got married by the fourth year. They came to honeymoon for the festival in the fifth year and had their kid on the sixth year.
Oh,
so
wow.
They always make it back. But they were two single people that came to the show just to watch it. They ended up sitting by each other at reserve, and it was just like, hi, hello, how are you? And we have a few of those stories that, you know, the people find love in our shows and get married, and we've married people at our shows and stuff. People have proposed at our shows and stuff like that. So it's just like, you know, we're as much as part of our city as anything else that's in our city. And I think that's what the beautiful thing about Cleveland Burlesque is, as it is now in Ohio Burlesque, is as good as its people that are good, and hopefully changing mind of other people that are not so good, and then they see us and they change their minds. They're like, oh, I want to hurt those people. I'm changing my mind. Hopefully, but
yes.
Hopefully, but you know, a good burlesque show, like you've said in past podcasts. Because I do listen to your podcast while I'm cooking or cleaning or doing stuff. I happen to enjoy it. It takes work. A good show takes work, more than a lot of people think it does. So
there's a lot of prep, a lot of during, and a lot of post that you got to take care of yourself too. Yeah,
and well, speaking to the choir, I'm supposed to be resting, and I'm like, but I want to do this. But I do. That's the thing that's so bad with me, that I'm just such the never-ending like project person. Like, I just literally was talking to my husband about it today. I was like, oh, I have nothing this week, and he's like, there's always something. I was like, thanks. bro. And I was just like, this is true. And I came down to my basement, so I was like, yeah, I should clean my costume room. That definitely got hit by the festival. And I just finished cleaning the rest of my house again after, it stayed specifically clean for the festival. And also, when you factor children in for my other stuff in my life, my teenager and my 3-year-old, it's just like, you're like, Bella, how are you alive? I was like, I don't know. I don't sleep. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's it's fine. But I don't know. I've always looked at that market in New York in an awe, honestly, because I don't know how you could sell shows there. It just looks so intimidating to me, and I'm like, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. So it's like that. I am so scared of New York markets because you guys have a show every day at this point.
A couple. Yeah, a couple shows a day, a couple shows a night. You can technically do an early show like mine. Technically, is an early show because it's 8:15ish, and then you move on to a 10 o'clock, and then by then there's usually something going on at midnight, and the bars close around 2. So technically, you could have done 3-4 shows if you planned it right.
What? Are you serious?
And there are performers who do sometimes 2, 3, 4 shows a night because they will work that's how they do it. They bounce around. Now, you try to keep them all in one borough, but if you can't, then you'll go from Manhattan to Astoria to Brooklyn to maybe not Coney Island because again we talked about how long it takes to get there. But you'll do your best. You do your best. And then you come home and then and many of us do the day job. Many of us have kids or spouses or taking care of our parents. And then we move on to the next gig. And somehow we managed to get the costumes together and washed. Somehow.
I don't even, my brain just exploded. 6 shows a day I would cry in my shower.
I mean,
the most that I've done in New York is 3 a week. 3 a week. That's what I got in me. But I know it's just, I always seen burlesque over there to be some of the funnest that I've seen because it's
great
just
stuff.
Keeps you on your toes and your toes. Like yours is some of the burlesque that I've never seen anywhere else except for New York. To be quite honest with you. So
ours,
it's
the
like yours,
me
like
personally.
You personally. Like I've never seen anything like that. Just only you in New York. You're the only one that essentially exists. Because somebody was asking me how to describe you as an entertainer, and I looked at her and I was like, like Victor?
Yeah.
Like Victor? It's Victor. It's the only Victor I know. It's Victor. Yeah, you'll like him. And
well, I mean, if it helps, I have also stood in the wings of shows saying I don't know anybody and I don't think anybody's going to like me either, and I've had my own issues with that. I'm celebrating 13 years in September, and I still have moments of what the fuck am I doing? I don't know I
freaking love the burlesque that you do. It's like one of the few things that you will not. I love you and Hinky Pinky are some of my favorite burlesquers.
Yes,
I know that Trey DeMarco is going to have a moment, but like you guys are some of my favorite burlesquers because you're not the status quo of burlesque. Like you know, some people might think that like I don't know, like does this like what's that movie like extra large? What's like the dancing Michaels? What is it called? Magic something? Magic Jordan?
Mike?
What? There you go.
Magic Michaels. You know. Good old Magic Michaels.
I swear to the name of the movie, I still don't. If you say it's Magic Mike, I believe you. It's Magic Michael.
No, it is. I do believe you're referring to Magic Mike.
Well, everybody thinks it's like that or whatever, that thunder from wherever it becomes like whatever thunderous moment. I don't know. It's a
thunder from down under. It rhymes.
Listen, I'm Mexican. I'm over here like, y'all got any more tamales? But like, some of those things still hit my radar because they're so cheesy. Like, I'm down to see like a good amount of, like, I go to Leather Stallion and go see a bunch of bears be bears. Like, that's what I love seeing. I like being myself a good bear guy, even though I'm dating a super skinny white guy. But it, things, details.
Spice of life. Spice of life.
Spice of life. But it's just like, I love.
Well, even
I
like,
love
because we have several really fat, Mr. Gorgeous and Chris Harder are perfect examples of cheesecake who know their cheesecake, and they are so self-aware, and it's hysterical. So
I love both of them, but it took me so long to talk to them in person, because I was like, you should even see me with one of the Trojan from the Twins in Seattle. I couldn't even approach them and be like, hi, bye. I remember being in a pool and Trojan swimming towards me, and I was like, bye, and they swim away. I'm like, bye.
I know, they're intimidating in their statuesque qualities. Yeah.
That's that's not even what it is. It is like, oh God, a fuck boy, I'm gonna go. So that's in my mind, that's what it is. And like, I love Chris Harder, but here's the thing, it's like the same thing. I was like, oh fuck boy, I'm gonna go. So like, I run away so fast. It's just like, I'm just like, wow, have a good day, bye, and I'm like gone. But it's like, people are like, Bella, come back, I just want to say hi to you. I was like, what? I don't want to say hi to you. Just run away. But the first time I saw Hanky, I was like, hello, you look friendly, talk to me. And like, the first time I saw you, I was just like in the corner being creepy.
Oh, wow.
Because I remember you. I don't think, it's not even, you're just very elegant when you're standing. I don't know if you ever seen yourself standing, but you're just very elegant. And I was just like, I know who that is. And it was like one of the times that I was up in New York that I saw you, I was like, that's Viktor. And I was just like sitting in the corner the whole time.
Well, I'm glad you eventually came out of the corner and said hi.
I was just like, hey, no. I died when I saw that you applied to our festival, by the way.
What was that?
I died when you applied to our festival. So excited.
Well, it was recommended to me, actually. Broody Valentino recommended it to me.
I miss my Broody.
Yeah, he was specifically the person who recommended it to me, because he had done it the year earlier.
I love him.
Well, I'm glad you got out of the corner. I'm glad we finally connected, and I'm glad to have done your festival twice now, and
hopefully a third time.
We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to any announcements that you have about the projection of the Ohio Burlesque Festival. I know there's a lot going on for its 10th year. Pretty fabulous.
One thing that we're going to focus coming up this next month, we're going to put out the POC scholarship, the Charm and Meow POC scholarship. And we actually, for you just to know, to be the first one to know, we're doing a specific scholarship for, or sponsorship for male performers for Best Burlesque, to apply to Best Burlesque. For anybody that wants to apply that is of marginalized minority, like LGBTQ, but not the standard, also like plus size, not standard body size, because I love the king category or the Best Burlesque, whatever it is. But I would love to see more diversity in it, because reasons.
Because that's our world.
Essentially, I love everybody has always competed on it, but I would like to see, somebody that's not at the status quo of every day. So, we're working on that with Ohio Burlesque, and then we just signed up with stuff at the Noir pageant. So that's going to be other stuff. Fun things to announce. We do have our dates for next year, and I should put it up, but I'm just waiting on one more confirmation. But we're on the weekend of August 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th. We're going to go on 4 days. The fourth day.
Oh my, yes.
I'm going to die. The fourth day is not exactly a show, so we're really trying to move to this conference idea. So we're going to see what we're going to do with that. Cool. But we're working with a lot of people to make the 10th really be the turnaround of what we're doing as a festival, and hopefully in the future as probably industry leading something or other, or whatever that's called, things, important numbers and tags and things. Yes, stuff. So I'm scared. Okay, it's gonna be fun, but it's going to be really entertaining. So I'm scared. I'm excited to show everybody what we're gonna put together.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Bella. I will have all of the methods that people can use to keep in touch with you and Cleveland Burlesque and what's going on in the coming, forever, because it's the internet. I was going to say the coming year, but it can go beyond that. It can even go beyond that. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that I got some time to talk to you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We only see each other on show days, so it's like let's grab 5 minutes when we can. So I'm glad we got a good chunk. And I will allow you, if you will indulge me as we sign off. I don't have an official sign off, but if you will end our conversation and let everyone know how you end your burlesque shows. We'll leave it with that, shall we?
Thank you, everybody, for listening. I love you. Remember to vote and fuck Donald Trump.
All right. I love you, Bella. Thank you so much.
Love you.
Mwah.
Mwah. Bye.
Viktor Devonne presents 2 Nights Stay, Stories from the Gilman.
It looks like the dance is ending. She goes to her purse, and he puts his hand on her shoulder. She's not sure why she didn't wear a sweater tonight, but her bare shoulder shivers at the touch. He murmurs something about an early morning. She figures she's going to bed alone again. Him to sleep 6 hours before a conference or a convention or whatever he's in town for. Wrong. He extends his arm towards her, ready to take her hand into his, and escort up the elevator, perhaps. No, they take the stairs. Slowly, drunkenly. She doesn't know how much she's had. Her eyes glance to the door she knows is hers for the next 3 days, but he hasn't slowed down. They go up one more flight. Must be after midnight. She doesn't want to be shy. She wants to confidently go for it. She wants to finally do what she promised on her 42nd birthday she would finally fucking do when she felt like it. And he seems so nice. Attractive. Not intimidating. And those eyes. What was that actor's name? As the door clicks open, she becomes a silhouette, slowly wandering aimlessly into this darkened room, the corridor of light providing only reference points so she knows where not to stumble. The bedroom of the hotel is very similar to hers. She can figure out where the desk is, where the extra chair might be, and where the mattress is. The window is open, and the curtains allow for just enough moonlight to make her feel quite beautiful. Something is wrong.